I will actually, ladies and gentlemen, director Ang Lee and producer Jerry Bruckheimer. Either of those. I really can't believe we pulled this one off. This is fantastic. Okay, so a few quick favors, if everyone at the beginning. I just want to make sure, I don't mind if people are filming a little bit of this on their phones, but please no live streaming. That's just not cool. So I just want to make sure no one is doing that, please. Thank you. Just as a favor. I just want to start by saying how thankful I am for the two of you doing this Q&A with us. Been a fan of both of yours for a very, very long time, and I'm super, super excited that you guys joined us for the screening. I sincerely thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Before we get started, I want to give a huge thank you to Paramount Pictures for letting us screen Gemini Man before it's in theaters. Huge thank you. And also a huge thank you to IMAX for being a fantastic partner and for allowing us to screen in 3D, high frame rate. Before I started the movie, I mentioned to the audience that the high frame rate, who in this audience saw high frame rate tonight for the first time? Okay, so was it like I said at the beginning, instead of looking at a movie screen, it was like looking through a window? Would you guys agree, disagree? Was it crazy for you guys to see it like this?
Yeah. Like he was there.
Yeah. Like we were there.
Before we jump into Gemini Man, I have a few what I call fun questions for the two of you. I promise they're harmless. I'll find out in about 3 minutes if they hate them, but hopefully they won't. Jerry, what TV show would you love to guest produce? And Ang, what TV show would you love to guest direct?
Guest direct? I don't know. I've never tried TV.
Is there a TV show that you're watching right now that you would love to?
No, not really.
Say no more?
Look, I just love the shows we have on the air. So that's it.
Except that, by the way, if people don't realize, Jerry has about 72 shows on TV. I'm slightly exaggerating, but not really. Besides your movies, what movie have you seen the most?
I think David Lean is I've seen his movies a number of times. I love his work. Bridge on the River Kwai, Lawrence of Arabia. So those are Godfather is another movie I've seen a number of times.
Papa probably, I would say Billy Wilder. Since I was 12, I just noticed this person. I remember the movie I saw, his movie before, and when I was little. Then when I get older, I'll just grab whatever I can, even before that. I just love the man.
Sure. Do you guys own any movie or TV show props?
I'm not a big collectors. A few things I have to collect, I don't know how many of you have seen the Ice Storm, that key ball where they throw the key in, that destroys so many families. I collect that key ball, plastic ball. I kept the sword from Crescent Dragon Dragon, that Green Destiny sword. I designed it, so I kept it. And also the Batwoman, who's that evil stick, the sword and the stick and the poison powder, so I kept that prop. And I kept from the Hulk, that hair file, the thing the Hulk catches and spit back and blow up the.
I like how you said you're not a collector. You still have a few things. Let's throw that out there. Do you own any?
I have too many to tell you. I keep things from every movie. There's been a lot of movies.
Do you have a full storage unit that people would be losing their mind to walk through?
No, but I have these showcases that I have a lot of the props in.
Actually, you won't remember this, but I went to your office once, and I remember seeing cool things there. I'll just say it like that.
No, we have a lot. We saved some of the key things from all of our movies.
What film scared you as a kid?
Psycho. That's how old I am. It's way back.
By the same director, Bird.
Okay.
And it gets scarier and scarier as I grow older. It gets more perverse. Once I know a little bit more about female sexual psychology, it's even scarier.
Jumping backwards, do you remember what it was when you were growing up that said, I want to work in the entertainment industry, I want to direct, I want to produce? Do you remember, was there a performance or a movie or something that clicked that said, I really want to do this?
Well, for me, it was just, I love the experience of going to films. I just loved it. I loved, having my hand in my popcorn and sitting back there and getting lost in somebody else's world. I had no idea how you could do that or how I could be part of it. I grew up in Detroit. And there was no connection to Hollywood whatsoever other than, I read everything I could and tried to figure out how I would fit into that world. And somehow I got here and started doing it. So I got very lucky.
For me, it was when I was 18, the first time I stood on stage. I failed the college examination and I got into Academy of Art. So I was all in shame. I was trying to start my life all over again, and maybe I'd do the next year's entrance examination. But once I stood on stage, I remember some lights like this. I just feel the audience in the dark, beyond the lights, and I felt like I belonged there. That was the pivotal moment for me. And I always associate guilt with the pleasure of standing on stage or performing art or even making movies.
You two have done some huge films that are beloved by many, many people. When they meet you, is there one or two things that people always want to talk to you about? Or is it sort of like in certain areas of the world, people are more likely to talk to you about a certain thing?
It's funny because we've made so many movies, and it depends on the age. If they're young, they want to talk about pirates. If they're older, they like to talk about Top Gun or Beverly Hills Cop. So, or if they're in the military, they want to talk about, some Black Hawk Down. It all depends where you are in your life, and that's what gravitates them to certain movies that I've produced.
For me, is the movie touched them. Like Sense Sensibility, Crossing Tiger and Dragon. In China, they like the East. They like to talk about Life of Pi for some reason. It's inspired their imagination or something touched them deeply. Usually, Brokeback Mountain, I get a lot. Changed my life. Thank you. And Wedding Banquet. Thank you.
When did you two first meet? Did you ever meet before this project to ever talk about working together?
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah.
So can you
It's
talk?
a shotgun marriage.
So I'm curious. Can you?
I met David Ellison in his office. He called me, wants to meet me about this movie. That was Skydance. So he pitched me the idea, and it clicked right away to see a young Will Smith and a digital person. I said, would you support the high frame rate 3D? I think to me that's normal frame rate if you want to see 3D. He said he's a tech guy, so I said yeah. And Jerry is producing it. I said come to my office. I show you a real ability and see if you really want to get into it. So that's the first time I saw him. They all come from LA to New York to my office, and I show them a reel of Billy Lynn, and they say we're in. That's the first time I saw this man, the legendary man. But there.
Jerry, this project has been in, I'm going to use the term development hell for a very long time. What was it? When did you realize this can finally get made?
I would say it's about 3 years ago we figured out, we watched some of the de-aging that they've been doing, some of the stuff that Marvel has been other films, and we did a little bit of it ourselves. So we saw that the technology was very close. So the project wasn't really in development all that long. It was sitting on a shelf. Because we did it early on when we got the project about, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago. We did a bunch of tests, and it was awful. I mean, really awful. We just knew we couldn't do it. So we just put it down and waited. And we brought in David Benioff, who I'm sure you guys know. And he came in and did a rewrite, and that kind of sparked the excitement again about 3 or 4 years ago. And that got it started again. And then we took it over to Skydance and David Ellison. And he read it, he said, I want to make this. And I think he had scheduled a meeting with Ang to pitch him some projects. And Ang kind of liked this one.
I'm curious, you've worked with Will Smith a few times. Is it as simple to get him in a movie as you texting him, or how much convincing does it take coming from you?
You know, I think every actor is you know, they all get, the big ones get offered everything. Because a movie gets made when Will Smith says, yes, I'm gonna do the movie. Unless it's, you know, hugely expensive, it's a different issue. But, so everybody's pulling on his coattails, you know, read me, see me, you know, be in my film. So we just stand in line like everybody else and try to get our day in court. But he likes the kind of stuff that we make and produce, and we have a great relationship with him. And he was a really big fan of Ang, and it had nothing to do with me. He liked the material and loved Ang. I had nothing to do with it. So, yeah, it was great for us.
For the two of you, the 3D high frame rate in this is the best I've ever seen in terms of the high frame rate. While I enjoyed Billy Lynn's high frame rate, I just, for me, it's even better. Can you talk about the technology, where it's at now, and how you were able to pull this off? Because it looks, in that high frame rate 3D, it's unbelievable.
I learned a lot from both Life of Pi and Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, especially Billy Lynn. So I just learned a lot. I just got better on this one. For that one, I want to make a comparison. I want to get rid of what we think movie is. That was like the task over with Billy Lynn. The result is not all that successful, but I was very proud of many things. I found that there's a beauty in 3D where you give sufficient information. I also understand we don't really know 3D. We haven't even started yet. This is a new media. It's a new engagement with the theatrical experience. It's not always in, but you can go out and in. It seems to be something else. And from Billy Lynn, I realized with the two eyes come to a point, it's just you process image differently. That's why you feel immersive. But your mind also racing faster. You're sharper, like in real life. You detect things, you gather information somehow differently. That's why you need higher frame rate. Because the two eyes has to line with each other and agree with each other. It seems to be a different world out there. To me, Billy Lynn, I use a war movie to compare with Halftime Show to see the contrast. And for this one, I just determined I just want to make it look pretty. People say it's like a giant TV. It's not. It's just something people never seen before. And this is giant TV, made it look like that. So I was determined to make it look really pretty, but realistic at the same time. So finding a real location that looks pretty, and we also, I think, more successful in this one than Billy Lynn. A lot of time, I think 3D should have its own lighting, because you're giving dimension. You don't have to throw those shadows. You don't have to do separation. In principle, you should light it differently. And you should light for details and more surroundings. So we really try this. Another you might notice is the night scenes. I wrote a lot of night scenes. You probably didn't know why I did that, but I wrote a lot of night scenes just to see how lighting works and also expose it differently. Because at night, we see details, but in movies, you don't. But with this media, you just want, because it's so much like life, we want it to look like life. So you do want to see details. So I shot a lot of them during the day, and I still lit them and treat them in the post and tweak the color and try to find believable night scenes. And this is also involving digital movie making. So digital human de-aging, I was very much, this is the hardest thing to do. Actually, to me, it's not de-aging, it's recreate that character from zero up. Because by D, you brush away a lot of the details, which this kind of media really wants to see detail. You're happy when you supply plenty of information. I think your eyes is happier, you're more relaxed, you're more focused. So there you go. I think I just learned a lot from the past experience. And in terms of using 3D language, I was more sure what equivalent, when you use certain length, certain depth, certain width of separation, how that equivalent to how I feel and how I want to express. I'm still waiting for audience to tell me how they feel. So I'm still learning.
Also, he picked the most difficult way to do it. Because, you know, there's a lot less information on the screen when you shoot it at 24 frames. And to create Junior, you could see every glint in his eye. Where if you shot it at 24, there's motion blur, there's grain. It covers a lot of the details that could have your eye think it's a fake. So by doing it this way, he made it 5 times harder to create Junior. So that's the mastery of what he has pulled off to create this human being, completely digital based on Will's performance. So it's quite an accomplishment what Aang did.
I have a whole bunch of questions about. Oh, sorry. I have a ton of questions about Junior, but I want to actually ask a specific question about the cameras. Can you talk about the cameras you used? And I believe you said the other day that it was like you were learning on the job too, in terms of the cameras getting better on the shoot.
Yeah, it was really interesting because I'm not a techno nerd at all, and so I kept watching these. First of all, these cameras, their rigs are enormous. We had to go to Germany to get special rigs made, and we barely got those rigs in time to start shooting the movie. It took so long to get them made. And there were 20 wires coming out of the back of those cameras, maybe more, 30. I mean, just wires everywhere. And as the movie progressed, there were less and less wires. So they kept creating better way to shoot the movie. I think at the end there were like 7 wires going into the camera. And so I think this medium will evolve and the cameras will get smaller and there'll be less wires and much easier to operate and use. Also, it was so difficult, the cameras were so heavy that when we wanted to do handheld, it was really a chore for our handheld operators. So what Aang and the grips designed, they designed these bungee cords on like rollers, and it was just fascinating to see what they did. So you could move around with these cameras, and they kind of bounce up and down as we moved them. So it was really a technological feat what you saw on the screen. It looked so simple and easy. It wasn't.
Thanks to Aries, they created 7 cameras for us. That's half the size. That accommodate 120 4K. Therefore, we need, because the camera's smaller, because we have to shoot actions, it have to be smaller. So we have to develop the new rigging that's smaller as well. And the wires just, I don't know, there's just so many people working. I don't know what they do. They all look serious and busy, looking at some kind of monitor. Like 3/10 of people, wherever I go. It's just endless wires and meters, and everybody's so busy.
How did shooting in this format with these cameras affect your shooting schedule? Does it amplify it by a certain percentage, or by the end you sort of figure out a way to make it work in the normal time frame?
Well, I think we figured out a way to make it work, but it was very tough on Aang because in the beginning, it didn't always work the way he wanted it to work. So you always had breakdowns where one of the eyes were off and had to start all over again, or the camera would break down. We had to send cameras. It was, yeah, there were all kinds of issues, but he stayed on a shooting schedule. He just had less coverage and less time to direct the scenes. But as you see, he did a masterful job.
I must say, it really takes a seasoned director to do this, to decide what exactly you have to shoot. Sometimes we might shoot like 2 shots a day. In action, we don't have coverages really. We'll assemble the shots. There may be 8 shots a day, 8 to 10 shots. That's really minimum for action movies.
Yeah, Michael Bay would shoot 40 to 50 setups in a day.
Very
and he'd use every one of them.
It's somewhere very expensive big movie, but it's like poorer than student films, like really stringent. Like
I definitely want to jump into creating Junior. Talk a little. I mean, what you had to do to bring this performance to life is crazy. Talk a little bit about what Will was basically. There was another actor there, and then Will would recreate the performance. Could you sort of talk about how it was brought to life?
I'll do it poorly. Ang would do it much better. But there was really three Wills. There was the first Will who we used for his body type and his skin. He was young and handsome, and so he always was acting against Henry. And then we'd have a stuntman in the action stuff replace our handsome guy, and then Will would then do every scene all over again by himself for the acting part in a head rig and pajamas with all the dots on him. So Ang had to do every scene usually 3 times to get what you saw on the screen.
The hardest part of creating believable Junior is science is hard enough. The study on aging, what it does to a person, and how do you make a lively person look like it's alive. That's really hard. But the really hard stuff comes after everything is perfect. That's when your work started. How we perceive Will Smith, how we think he can play better acting today, a young man with innocence, which is kind of a different kind of a character than how we remember him at this age range. And all those things, each time the scene change, light change, angle change, somehow it just doesn't look like him or it doesn't look right. We check his own movie, let's say we take Bad Boys, half the shots don't look like him, but you don't care because you know it's real. But with the digital, we don't really want to believe because we know it's not true. So you're really fighting with the viewer's perception, and that's kind of a whimsical. And when we watch 3D, the difference between people are much larger than 2D. So even to our filmmakers, like the top head of department, when we watch a shot, we can have very different opinions. So you just go over and over and over and over until we feel like, I think that's Will Smith when he's young and performing like this.
Yeah, I'm sure there were over 500 artists working on this.
Yeah, it's about 500 people spend a year post. Actually, they start working on it while we shoot. I have to give them, producers and studio, a lot of credit because they allow us to turn over while we're shooting before we lock the cuts, because they start to spend real money. We commit to it, even we don't know what the end of it, what it really looks like, and they're already spending money because we really need all that time. It's just time and effort, I hate to call it technology, because technology only go this far. The red is like artistic endeavor, like hundreds of people keep going at it, guessing and trying, scratching our heads.
And Ang wasn't even sure himself if he could pull it off. He said, I'm pretty confident, but I really don't know if we can do this. What kind of sold all of us is he took a scene from Bad Boys, and it's Will and Martin in a car, and they're talking. And he took one of the headshots of Will and replaced it with a digital Will, just one shot. And you watch the scene, and I couldn't pick out the shot that he changed into a digital head. So that gave us an enormous amount of confidence, and him too, I think. Ang felt pretty good about what happened.
One of the things about Will is that he's, I think, 50, but he looks so much younger. How is that how challenging is it to make him look, do you know what I mean? Because he looks young.
Well, we put some gray hair. We put gray hair on him and made him look a little older. We tried different ways to do that.
But if you do the study, compare them, even Will, who's kept himself so well, you see the difference. You see the difference, right? the age does something to us in 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and you have to understand that the people at Weta had to reconstruct his whole face, from the muscles to the pores on his skin. That was all done with their artists. It's just amazing what they accomplished. They had a skeleton view of his head, and they started adding muscles and everything to his face, and how the eye moves, how the mouth moves, what muscles move the mouth and the eyes. And I think the eyes are the hardest.
Enamel, you know, our
Even the
enamels
teeth.
change color over the years.
Yeah.
Subtle things like that. The corner of the eyes, even every tissue, how does that move, relating to emotion, relating to aging. It's mind-boggling the study they can do. It's three layers of skins. You can see through him. Every pore, there's like so much detail. The study on Will, is mind-boggling.
What shot or shots did you continually go back to because you were never satisfied?
It's the first shot. I was very nervous. The first real shot of him. In my plane, people watch the motorcycle fight, and he has the sunglasses on, though it's in broad daylight. It's action, so I want audience to get used to his existence and accept him. I think that's easier. The shot really concerns me is when he sit on the bed talking to his dad. That's the whole scene is in one shot. I did a 180-degree kind of camera move. That's pretty scary. The whole scene is one shot, and that if I can anchor that, I think people are going along with him. So that's the anchor shot for me. That took about, after we shot it and turned it in, it took about a year. First shot to turn in, the last shot to come out.
I'm definitely curious to talk about the editing process because so much happens in the editing room. Talk a little bit about your first cut compared to the finished film and how much changed along the way, if at all.
A lot, really a lot. You know, this is a new look, so I'm nervous about it, you know, how people accept it. And then we have Will Smith in a big action movie, and personally I like to do drama. And on something you don't see for a year, you know, we have to cut out with Will, that funny face with the jumpsuit, with the head gear, with the camera here, and full of dots on his face and white spots. And we watched that for a long time and try to judge if the movie is moving or working or not. And it's kind of unfair, but that's all we have. And as we going further into it, we see more shots by animation, by really rough in. So it's very hard for editing. And we tested, it's a long process, we keep changing. Then we have a little bit of reshoot, and finally finally kind of see everything. Then we felt we need to reshoot a little bit.
I should say
it's a long process.
That's like every movie
yes,
though.
yeah.
The additional photography is every movie.
Yeah, what you find out is, no matter how many people read the script and approve the script, the audience is much smarter than we are. They really are. And they'll see things that we didn't get at all, and we have a lot of really smart people working in these movies. But the audience is always somehow a lot smarter than we are.
Oh, I was going to say that I'm always fascinated by what was the last thing that you cut out before you picture locked? If you can remember. Picture lock meaning like when they lock the movies, you can't make any more changes.
There's one scene, Jerry probably don't want to cut out, but because the shooting the father at the end was very unsettling, I think, to the audience. I think we need a lighter scene. So we have Mary arrest that bad woman, Lassiter, her bad boss, as a satisfaction. It's a very light scene. Just try to light things up a little bit. Then we go to the ending. That wasn't a particularly good scene, but you sort of need that to lighten things up a little bit. Unfortunately, we reshoot the ending. That does light things up, and it has a warm ending. So we took that out. I think that's the last thing we took out, yes.
I think so.
How does the high frame rate 3D affect the way you shoot a movie? Are you on set and being aware that you cannot do as many cuts, or are you filming it a certain way, knowing from what you've learned on Billy Lynn and you put into this?
I think this media like mise en scène more than cutting, than montage. Mise en scène is how you arrange in the same shot, how you move things around, how you're staging it. I think that's because you're in it. I don't want to disrupt you with too many cuts, although all the cuts still work. You just have to be aware of the Z-axis changes, our eyes adjusting it much slower than left and right, up and down. So other than that, just about all the shots, all the cuts we used to do, all work. But I think when you do that, you're not taking advantage of this media. This media is beautiful. We have a lot to see, a lot of detail in one shot, and the shots can go longer, and you can really take advantage of that. So I do take longer shots. I took master shots very seriously, and imagine that would be the shot, and I was sort of assemble the movie together instead of cut it together. Of course, being a professional, I have to do coverage, kind of a minimum coverage, just in case that doesn't work, because in movie you never know, so you have somewhere to go. And there are times the master shot work great, but then you go to a close shot, actor give you something great. There's no way you're not using a close shot when actors are great. So I do pretty minimum coverage, I would say, but I still cover it. But I do pay attention to the beauty shots and the longer shots. Make sure it really go well. When I did 2D movies before, wide shot and master shot seems to be way oriented. You know, just get training the actors to get into the situation, or somewhere if you need to reorient your audience, you just cut back to the wider shot. Otherwise, you just go in and in. That's how we usually make movies. But with this, I pay special attention to master shots.
I was going to say that both of you guys, I'm sure, pre-planned so much on this movie, but there had to have been a day or two on set where you got hit with challenges you were completely not expecting. Do you remember any of those?
Every day.
I would say 3 times a day.
Yeah, every day. Something would break or something would go wrong. It's so complicated, this camera system. There's so many things that can just go haywire on you. And I mean, he's not kidding. We had like 3 or 4 tents with technicians working behind the scenes to make sure everything was going right. Like one of the technicians run out to hang and say, "Oh, the I/O is off. You know, the left eye is wrong." And so we'd have to redo the scene and correct it. And sometimes one of the cameras would go down, and we had to wait till we got another camera put into the rig, or sometimes we didn't have another camera. So there's always
radar,
issues.
remote control. The focus pulling doesn't quite work.
Right.
It's too slow, or this, that. There's always something. I don't want to discourage anybody making this kind of movie. It's just difficult now. Someday it'll be like, cameras this size of an ice cube. And film student will be knowing that before they get out of school. All the language, this day will come. But to us, it's really difficult now. It will get easier.
I don't know if you've seen pictures of the movies that were made in the 30s and 40s, and you saw the size of those cameras. They were just enormous. And look what we're using today. The camera's about this big.
Cinematographer, each time I get in despair or get frustrated, he has something put in my office. One of those cameras, it's the size of 2 refrigerators, with like 30 people standing around it. And I thought, we're not that bad.
I am curious though, at the beginning of the shoot, did you find that there were more technical challenges? And by the end, because earlier you mentioned that you had the wires cut down to like 7. Did you find at the end of the shoot that the cameras were more reliable and you were having less technical hurdles?
Absolutely. I mean, we flew out technicians from Germany to work on the cameras. to figure out we're having moisture problems in the cold and in the heat. Some of the cameras would go down. They had to figure out what the problem was. And they did. They came in and they reworked the cameras and changed them and brought new ones in. And by the end, it was a lot smoother operation.
Not only equipments and technician too. Like the focus puller, for example, we trained him for 2 months. This is like the best in the business. I trained 2 months. And I kept warning him, when you really do it, it's not what you're thinking. Yeah. It's, be respectful, but yeah. First shot in the movie, we watched the daily. So what did I tell you? It's not on the tree shot. You just don't know where your eyes are going. It's like really tricky. And he freaked out, and for like months, he would come, every shot would come to my booth, check the 3D, and watch the dailies diligently and try to get it. The time when he really get it, because for the last movie, nobody knows how we pull focus. This is like really difficult, because the information you're tagging along is so much, and then your eyes are so tricky, so critical, and it's not like who's speaking, you go where. Your eyes do strange things. You don't know what's more interesting and where you're staying, and you have to like super, then we found is you have to be super aggressive. Like before Will is about to do that, even I know, before even Will knows, he knows like it beating like a quarter of a second. There's some tricks. Finally, it take him like 2 months to get. It's really difficult, but once you get it, it can hype like this. It's very exciting.
It's interesting you're saying that this is the best in the business, and he's having a nervous breakdown. You know, but I would imagine by the end of the shoot, though, it sounds to me
it will be easy in the future, but it's difficult now. Yeah.
There's a lot of R&D on this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How does it work in the editing room with shooting 120 frames a second in the 3D? How does that change the editing equipment that you're using? How many computers you need? Like, how does it change the whole post-production process?
Our editor is really a scientist. Him and I, we work every movie I made. I think we're the first ones to use Avid, the computer from Wedding Banquet. It's 1991, 92. We're the guinea pigs, because people let us use it and try which one to invest on, and they give us free equipment. So you hardly can see anything. That's how we edit it. So we grow together with the editing equipment. We can edit it on 60 frames per second. That's how we do it. Well, too bad my editor's not here. I'm like a really low-tech person. But what's special, after Life of Pi, Billy Lynn, and this, we work pretty swiftly. It's complicated, but it's pretty handy. The big difference that there's no lab to process our material, like to see dailies, to go day by day business. So we have our own labs. So that's special. It's a huge room. You know, I don't know how many terabytes they're carrying.
Yeah, we had
So
an enormous room for the equipment to see dailies, and it had to be freezing cold in there.
So
they had
that's
these
really
special air
special.
conditioners in there.
Yeah, we have our own lab.
It's crazy. So my last question before I open it up for the audience. What do you think, the VFX in this are crazy, what do you think, for the two of you, is the next thing that Hollywood can overcome with VFX? Or do you, let me actually stick with that.
I would say turning visual effects to visual art. Yeah, it's an artistic approach. We touch up, we do digital movie making. So people, they're not thinking about the effects, they just watch the movie and it becomes unnoticeable. What is a fantasy or realistic movie? You improve the quality of how we pretend something happens. I think digital, we call it effects. I really don't like calling it effects. I think they're great tools. When we do digital film, they're a great tool to touch up, to help, to make believe.
Is there anything that you think?
Well, you know, based on what you see now, we can do just about anything. Whatever a writer can imagine, we can figure out how to do it. and that is all new. I mean, Marvel wouldn't be Marvel without the technology that we've created through the years. They couldn't make those movies. They could have made them, but the digital effects would have been, there weren't digital effects, so it wouldn't have looked the way it looks today. And as the computer power keeps every 4 to 5 months, it doubles and triples, which gives us more and more information, more ways of doing things. So we're pretty much at a place right now where you create something, you put something on a page, and will figure out a way to bring it to an audience. And the technicians will be able to do it.
In making this kind of movie, the 3D movies, when you supply enough information, it's getting harder and harder to physically pretend something happens. I think digital help is really helpful in us making this kind of movie. We really need it. Be like a normal part of movie making. That's from my perspective.
I'm going to open it up to the audience. Where's the ball? There it is. So that is the what's it called again? The catch box. That's right. So it's a thing you can throw at people, and it has a microphone in it. Let's start right over there. Wait, I just want to see something. How many people have questions? Okay, so we're going to try to do what we call the lightning round, because I want to try to get as many people in before they tell me that they have to leave. So we're going to try to do this quick so everyone can ask, you know what I mean, like a lightning round. So right there.
Hey,
You got to talk into the thing.
hello, can you hear me?
I don't know.
Broken?
Hold on.
We can hear you, though.
No, but I want to make sure that the filming can, is it on? Hold on, let's see what,
I don't think it's on.
yeah, I don't think so either. It'll be fixed in 2 seconds. Promise. Okay, let's just call it out while he's fixing.
Well, I'm a big fan of both of you, and I just wanted to see from this movie, what was your favorite scene in the movie for both of you?
The question for both of you is, what was your favorite scene in the movie?
I think the motorcycle chase for me is quite an accomplishment, what Aang pulled off, and it's very exciting, and it really puts you there. You're on that motorcycle with him, and it's pretty thrilling.
Yeah, I'm saying that when Henry wakes up that 10 minutes and the full chase that leads to the motorcycle, that sequence, I can watch it again and again. I also like when they have that confrontation, talk to each other in the catacomb, where we see a lot of the close-up Junior's face that leads to the fight. I like that sequence too.
Next question. I'm going to look over right there.
So it heats and colder if you put in a slip ball, and the rig is too big. How did you pull off underwater scenes?
How did you pull off the underwater scenes with the technical challenges of the cameras?
I really want to do it because I imagine it would be so beautiful. It's so beautiful. One of the most beautiful shots ever done. I have to do it. It has nothing to do with anything, but I really want to see it.
How did you do it technically then?
Actually, this came from Life of Pi, because we have underwater shots, and at that time nobody take 3D camera banging around. It's always in the controlled condition like stage, and we're making a water movie. It's pretty crazy. But for that movie, we made the underwater 3D underwater rigging case. It's a blue box, very big. Takes many people to operate. Yeah, you should see how we do handheld shot with that thing. It's very funny. So underwater, I remember that gear, so it called up. It's still there. Only after us probably been used once, so we used that to do the underwater shot. Again, it took many people to operate it.
Right back there. Wait, let's see. There's a mic.
Hello. Okay. You said you learned a lot of lessons from Billy Lynn and other films that you've done. What is the most important lesson you've learned from making this movie?
What's the most important message?
Lesson? Like,
Lesson.
what did you learn?
Lesson? I think 3D is a different existence. It's not just a space. I think that's a world that is quite different. Don't assume you know. That's listen to me, and listen to my comrade all of the people who work on the movie. I was very embarrassed each time that there's a big production meeting. The first thing I said, this is embarrassing. I want to tell you you're not good enough for the job. Neither am I. So it's something new. Always being alarmed that you're in the process of doing something wrong and you're not aware of it. So you just need that to be that awareness. That's hardly a lesson. It's just like a cautious thing. I learned that movie has to be fake. From building to this. Building, I stage a battle scene and a halftime show. To me, they're equally compelling and interesting. But it seems like the world wants to see halftime show. They don't want to go to war. So I decided I want to develop the next level of artifice. It seems like movie needs to be in a special place, giving the realism of this provide for people to engage. You still need to create that kind of a dreamy thing. With a genre we're familiar with, which not exactly serving the story. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And then you have the biggest movie star, he has his thing that we expect from him, and you have him play something else. It's very challenging, it's stretched a lot. Sometimes clumsy, sometimes you feel you hit the sweet spots, like, yeah, you know. But the movie is a mystery. I always try to think I know, I learn something, there's always beat me some way. I tried crossing tag hidden dragon. I want to change that, and then you yield to something. The next movie I try something. I really want to make a difference. You make that much difference, and then the movie will beat you somehow. Something when you wrestle with not only my imagination but audience imagination, it's really tricky. The lesson is harder than you think.
So thank you.
Is the catch box working or no? Got it.
Hi, big fan of both of you for a long time. As an aspiring filmmaker, I'm always curious to see what was the toughest and easiest day like on set. I know that a movie like this, or actually any movies at all, are very difficult to make. So I'm just curious to see what the toughest and easiest day was like.
Well, I think the toughest days were in Cartagena when the temperature was peaking towards 100, and you're just exhausted and sweating, and it was really tough, and the cameras were breaking down. We had some pretty steamy days.
The toughest day was when a junior threw that bike towards Henry. That day we only did half a shot. It was a cloudy day, it was just miserable, nothing looks right. You know, under tremendous time pressure, because those are historical sites and the very busy touristy site, we'll make it look like a perfect plague of paradise, like hardly anybody go there. That's not true. It's infested with tourists. And so to lock up a section one day at a time, you don't have a lot of time. You know, it's a special favor. The city really hosts that to make things happen. So that day you have, if the weather is bad, it's bad. So that was a bad day. And then no matter how many times we were sending that bike, practice or whatever, the bike just does its thing. And we broke the stuntman, which is the best biker in the world, like world champion. I don't know how many years, like the best in the business. He was doing that sliding and sending, and he broke his finger. I said, oh, okay, we gotta stop. And then the miserable was like,
Can I ask a quick question?
shitty day is like, why do I want to make movie? Why come to this place? That's not a movie town. Like, I know it's pretty. Everything goes wrong.
You also wanted to know, was there ever an easy day?
I don't want to say easy day, but I expect something really hard, but it come up easy. So I would say that's the easiest day for me. That's Will doing Junior scene that has the final confrontation with his dad in his office. Because that happened to be the third week, was still early. It's one of the earliest scenes. Like it's only the second scene we shoot Junior. We don't know if Will can be young and this and that. And he's facing a tremendous good actor, English actor, Clive Owen. So the pressure is very high. And in the morning we shot Clive's side. He's like tremendous. And then we went to lunch and we'll stay in the trailer 1 hour, half an hour longer. When I show up, I know he's preparing. Psych himself out. He come out and with his funny gears and dots over his face, and he just nailed it the first take. It was like, oh. Everything you see, that is a really compelling scene. I know it's a young face of tears. That's all like someday you see in the making of the movie. That's all Will, like exactly what he did. And then right after that, I was like, if it doesn't go well, maybe we can take one extra day because this is a crucial scene.
We had
People wrap, we can wrap like halfway into the afternoon.
We had a couple miserable days in Savannah. They had these bugs called no-see-ums, and everybody had mosquito netting and head to toe, but they get inside the nets, and it got so bad, crew members actually had to go to the hospital. There were so many bites on them. So that was one of our more miserable days.
All the people that think working on movies is luxurious and glamorous. You know, I think we're almost out of time, but I know there's a few. Well, let's go right here.
Speaking of Will's performance, I wanted to know if you knew what he did to prepare. Did he like watch some of his own work? I mean, how would he go back into that mindset to be, you know, his sort of younger self?
In the rehearsal time and even shooting time, we talked a lot. We did a lot of preparation in terms of the youthful. You have to check his old movies. I made a collection. This is what I like. This is what I don't like.
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, the Bad Boys. Some of the bigger scenes, more scenes we like that make Will Smith. I don't like for this movie. Some like nothing when he's not doing anything. It's not important. It's quite genuine. I say, no. And I also like a lot what he did in 6 Degrees Separation. That's a great acting piece for him, and he was exactly at 23. So I made this telephone scene where you're, I like this section. So I went through that. I went through, he was very, very generous about sharing the Will Smith, what makes Will Smith work. Kind of tricks them, this work, that work. That was a lot of fun. And then his personal life, he shared a lot. Like the genuine him when he was younger, what he was thinking, what is he going through. And because this character has a military background, so he shared his upbringing. He has a military father. He grew up in that family, so I asked him to imitate his father. So a lot of references to begin with, but to unlearn something using the better skilled actor now. You know, that scene I mentioned about, right after we wrap, I said, can you act like that when you're young? He said, hell no. He's a better actor, so I want to keep him being a good actor, but at the same time, he has to unlearn a lot of things he knew and capture that innocence. So he really, that's a much harder job than play Henry. He's a lovely man, really working hard. Right before they go into the set, I will respect their privacy. For actors, I think I have a pretty sharp eyes, and also I'm the one who's looking at a 3D monitor. That counts more than what you really see, how he feels, or 2D monitor on the camera. That monitor counts. So I'm like the third eye. I'll tell him what I see, and he was very cooperative. He really wanted to act well in this scene. I don't care. They don't have to tell me their secrets and how they're, when they prepare at the last moment. I will give them room, give them full respect. Whatever they use, I'll see the result. I say I like this or not, or what can be adjusted. Actors, they're very brave. They use something deep in here. I think we really want to respect them, but I can tell if it's coming to life or not, especially with this media.
You guys both have.
Is there a mic? Does anyone have a mic? Well, let's just talk.
Okay. You guys both have such incredible bodies of work that have so much action in them, and the Academy doesn't recognize stunts or action design. Out of all your films, what do you think would be Oscar winner for action design?
The Academy doesn't really go after action design or stunt work.
Yeah.
And is there something, I guess the way to say it is there something from your...
I think they should.
Yeah.
Because in Asia, we do. I host, happen to be the chair of this award called Golden Horse. That's like Pan Chinese language award. It's like our Oscars. We had that for, I don't know, 30, 40 years, nearly 50 years. We always have that. That's a...
Can I ask you a follow-up?
The action, we call it Best Choreography or Action Choreography Award.
I just wanted to know, how do you
It's a
do
big
it?
award for us.
How do you do it in Asia in terms of who, because there's so many people involved in the actual stunt sequence. There are the people that design it, there are the stunt performers.
The
There's
designer that they get the award.
That's what I was curious about. So it's the designer of the sequence.
People risk their life, they don't count. The people come up with that bad idea, they get award.
Right. Because that's something to think about, though. A lot of people have talked about, should
It's
it
art,
be...
it's definitely art.
Yeah, 100%.
100% art form.
I completely agree. Is there a sequence from your crazy resume that you think that if there had been an Oscar that year for stunt work, it would have, something that really stands out for you?
Well, I think some of the, I mean, Michael Bay's a master at it, and he's done so many movies with me that I mean, a lot of them are just brilliant, what he's done in Armageddon and Pearl Harbor. Some of those battle scenes in Pearl Harbor are amazing.
Yeah, I mentioned this to you yesterday. Of all the movies you've done, did you ever think Armageddon was going to be the criterion?
Not really, but you know, it's a really entertaining movie. And
It's fucking awesome. Let's not call it entertaining. Sorry for the language, I apologize. Can we do one more, or do you guys, is it the end?
Go ahead, one more.
Sure.
All right, wait, so one more.
I was going to ask about the catacomb scene. The lighting was one of the breathtaking parts about that. How you use the flare, the light on the gun. Were those choices to brighten the scene, or were those specific
Choices.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Exactly, choices.
Okay.
I want to make it dark, and of course, a clone is a rejuvenation of life. So I want something death around them. What's the best? How can you find a better way to metaphorically and visually inspiring? But that place is supposed to have no light source and 3D lights. They really like lights. They don't like the black behind the character crashing into it. They don't like things to crash, which is one of the lessons I learned in this movie, not last one. Last one I learned not to use backlight too much, but this one I realized they don't like black, they don't like crashing. So to design that eerie, dark feeling, also give excuses to have little shimmering lights to make the separation. Yeah, I thought of the flare, and we shade the light. That's supposed to be a small gun light, but we take pretty powerful light on top of it. And our best gaffer is Mary. You know, her job is she does a good job of performing, hitting the mark, and also lighting. She's quite an artist.
On that note, I want to say if you
And
put...
I like the contrast too. I'm sorry, that has a cold touch to it, a little blue touch to it, and the other has that orangish, which is a cue for danger. Each time we go danger, that's kind of our motif. We go orange. so that combination also works. So just the flare is not enough. So something cold tone and harsh, because like harsh reality with earthy, orange, dangerous background. That was the design.
I feel I've interrupted you like 16 times tonight. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. On that note, I want to give a huge thank you to Paramount Pictures again for letting us screen the movie early. A huge thank you to IMAX for being an awesome partner. A huge thank you to Thad and Dennis for filming the Q&A at Collider, and Dorian for taking some pictures. But most of all, a massive thank you to Ang Lee and Jerry Bruckheimer for doing this Q&A. Thank you so much. Thank you. That's all I can say is thank you.